is our Aprilia Tuareg 660. This is a bike that we've had now for about 2 years, and at this point we are ready to move on from it because I have a series in mind that I'll talk about in just a moment. I also want to say a quick thanks to the team over at Ryder Justice who have been supporting the channel basically since day one. And if you ever need legal representation, either for you and your motorcycle or your car, make sure you call the team over at Ryder Justice and you call Scott first. Now, it's been a while since we've made a video with this motorcycle because Roman has had it at his garage up in the mountains. So he's been riding it most recently, and he's gotten to use it to do some adventures up in the mountains around Keystone in Colorado, which is a perfect place to have a bike like this. And if you are interested in this motorcycle, you can shoot us an email at ask@tfltruck.com and see about buying it. It's pretty low mileage and it's in perfect condition. We also opted for this very, very cool color scheme with blue, purple, red, and white. So it's a pretty striking bike to look at, and it's just got awesome components all over it. Got super nice inverted long travel suspension, Brembo brakes that are duals up front. So it's a super nice bike, as you know if you've done any research on these motorcycles. So instead of standing next to it and talking about it a bunch, let's take it on the road. And firing it up, you hear stock pipe. Sounds fantastic, and I've already warmed up the bike a little bit. But we'll take it around the block and talk about why we're moving this motorcycle on. And a big part of the reason is because of that series I was talking about. So in general, we've had really good luck on this channel doing videos on mini bikes, small motorcycles like the Grom, like the Monkey, like the Trail 125, and even the Navi, Z125, all that kind of stuff. So I want to do a series comparing all those motorcycles to each other, do MPG, top speed run, acceleration, and all kind of stuff to show how all those bikes stack up, just because we've gotten really good traction with it before. And there's a few of those bikes that we could get from Honda, from Kawasaki, and then other ones that we would buy. So basically, to pay for that, we would sell this Aprilia because it's kind of run its course. Even though listening to that exhaust note does make you wonder how much it'll be missed. And I will miss it. I really haven't gotten to spend a lot of time on this bike, not as much time as I would like to. Of course, Roman kind of gets first dibs on these things, and so he spent the majority of time with it. But this is just a great all-around motorcycle. Sounds good, it's got great performance, and it sits in a good category of motorcycles that you would want to ride off-road, because there are bigger adventure bikes like the Pan America, like the GS 1200, 1200 class adventure bikes that are great on road, they're great on the highway, they're very powerful, but they can be a little unwieldy on some of the more difficult trails because of their size and because of their weight. And this is a 659cc parallel twin, and it makes about 80 horsepower, it weighs about 450 pounds, so it feels plenty athletic. It's got no problem getting out of its own way. It definitely does not feel slow, but because it's 450 pounds, it's on the slightly lighter side as far as ADVs that you would actually want to ride on the street, because that's kind of the balance. Some ADVs get too big and heavy for you to want to do any serious off-roading with them, and then other ADVs just don't have the power and don't have the gearing and amenities that you would want to ride it on the road a lot. And this kind of splits that difference in a pretty appealing way. Now, it is a relatively tall bike. When I sit here, I can flat foot this bike, but it's it's definitely on the taller side. And depending, if you're a shorter rider, you could deal with that. Obviously, you could do a lowering link and you could make it a little bit more approachable. But at 5'10", I find this bike to be just about at the perfect height. And because it is on the lighter side, it's really not difficult to just get your foot down and park it. And it's also fun on the street. Of course, it's not going to handle like a bike that's just set up with less aggressive tires, but it's still got enough cornering capability on road for you to have fun on some twisty roads. These roads that we have immediately around us here where our office is are not super windy, but even just in the bit of time that we've gotten to pitch it around some corners locally, it's a fun bike to ride. It's kind of one of those good master of none but jack of all trade bikes that I would be willing to take into really just about any circumstances. This is a motorcycle that you could ride for quite an extended period of time in a lot of different conditions, and I think you'd be happy with it in most any scenario that you got it into. And it's also a comfortable motorcycle. I know one of Roman's complaints was that the bike didn't really have suspension settings for someone of his weight. He's over 6 feet tall, and you know, he's not light, that's for sure. I'm 5'10" and about 174 pounds, and this motorcycle feels like it's set up pretty well for me. This stretch of highway that we're on right here, this has got pretty choppy concrete. It's these separations in the road surface that a lot of time get you bouncing up and down in vehicles that don't have comfortable suspension. But even with this suspension being dialed up a little bit for Roman's weight, it still feels pretty plush to me. So it's not bad at all. And you get quite a bit of travel here, so it's just a good all-around bike. It's something that I would happily commute on because I'm sitting very upright. I've got some wind protection. I wish I could yank that up and just give myself a little extra, but either way, still nice to have a windshield. And yeah, I mean, I'm comfortable sitting upright. I've got passenger accommodations if I need them, and you could put some extra storage on this motorcycle, turn it into a really good commuter. And if you live in a place like we live where you've got access to the mountains, then easy as that, you can be in the mountains riding around on some fire roads, some fun trails, maybe even take this bike moto camping. There's just a ton of potential for it. So we'll be sad to see this motorcycle go, but we've also got a lot of our motorcycle budget wrapped up in this motorcycle, and I think that we'll be better served when we move this bike on and we buy multiple cheaper motorcycles to build a whole series out of. And again, so the idea there is to have like a TNT 135, a Z125, a Grom, and a Monkey, and put all those bikes together in a series to show which one of the clutched mini motos is the best. So we're not going to include the Navi, we're not going to include the Super Cub or the Trail 125, but all of the bikes in that general category that you can shift yourself. I want to put those side by side and see definitively which one performs the best in all these different categories. We'll be missing that kind of noise and that kind of acceleration in that series, but it just seems like from experience, at least a lot of the people that we have watching this channel are pretty excited about mini bikes, which makes sense to me because mini bikes make it way easy to get into motorcycling, which is rad, and they're fun, approachable bikes. And they're fun bikes even if you're an experienced rider. So we really enjoy those mini motos a lot. We'd be excited to have basically the whole lineup of them, the whole category that encompasses in motorcycling all together in the same place. And who knows, maybe a fair number of people will show up to watch that series. I hope so. So let me know in the comments below if a series around mini motos sounds like a good idea, and also let me know if you're interested in buying this bike, because once again, it's sad to let go of. It's a bike that I wish I could have spent more time with, just because it is a blast to ride. But again, if you're interested in buying this motorcycle from us, feel free to shoot us an email and drop me a comment below. What do you think of this mini bike series idea? That's all for this video, and we'll see you in the next.